Imagine being 16 years old and watching your own fingers rot off your hands while you were still alive. Not from an accident, not from frostbite, but from the inside out, your own body betraying you cell by cell, nerve by nerve, until the distinction between living flesh and dead meat becomes a philosophical question your physicians can't answer. Now imagine being that 16-year-old boy and having to strap a sword to what's left of your hand because you need to. Led 500 exhausted men against 26,000 fresh warriors who have already started dividing up your kingdom's corpse. November 1177. Jerusalem is dying, and sitting on its throne is a teenager whose face has melted so badly that he wears a silver mask, not for ceremony, but necessity, because what's underneath would make hardened crusaders vomit their breakfast. This is Baldwin IV, the Leper King, and he is about to do something so mathematically impossible that both Christian and Muslim chroniclers will struggle for centuries to explain it without invoking literal divine intervention. But here is what nobody tells you about the Battle of Montgisard. It wasn't won by God or superior tactics or blind luck. It was won by a boy who'd lost the ability to feel pain, which meant he'd also lost the ability to know when to stop, when to quit, when to acknowledge that his body was screaming at him to die already. And that made him the most dangerous thing on the battlefield. Let's talk about what leprosy actually does to you, because the medieval understanding of rotting alive doesn't quite capture the full horror. Leprosy doesn't just destroy your flesh, it destroys your nervous system first. Your extremities go numb, completely numb, so you don't feel when you injure yourself. You don't feel the infections that follow. You don't feel your fingers breaking when you grip something too hard. You wake up one morning and realize your hand is swollen to twice its size, oozing pus through skin that's splitting like overripe fruit, and you have no idea when it started because your body stopped sending pain signals months ago. Baldwin was diagnosed at 9 years old. His tutor noticed that the boy didn't react when stuck with pins during lessons. That's how they tested for it in the 12th century. Just jammed needles into children's flesh and waited to see who cried. Baldwin didn't cry. He watched with curiosity as blood welled up from the puncture wounds like he was examining someone else as harm. By 13, when his father died and thrust a crown onto a diseased head, Baldwin's hands were already wrapped in bandages that needed changing 3 times daily. By 16, those hands barely qualified as hands, any more like clubs of rotting meat with bones showing through in places, held together by sheer willpower and linen strips soaked in wine and honey that didn't do anything except make the rot smell slightly less unbearable. Jerusalem in 1177 is a city preparing for its own funeral. The European kingdoms have given up sending reinforcements. The Pope is quietly negotiating what happens to the holy relics after the Muslims take over. The city's garrison consists of maybe 750 men, most of them too old or too young or too injured from previous battles to be really effective. And approaching from the south like a swarm of locusts made of steel and horseflesh is the Saladin's army, 26,000 warriors, mounted cavalry stretching so far across the plains that the dust clouds look like fog, supply trains that could feed a city for months, siege equipment designed to crack fortifications like eggshells. Saladin himself is 40 years old, in his absolute prime, commanding an empire that stretches from Egypt to Syria. He has united the fractured Muslim world through a combination of military genius and political brilliance that would make Machiavelli weep with envy. He's never lost a major battle. Never. And he is so confident about this particular campaign that he has already sent messengers ahead to Damascus, describing tomorrow as victory feast in specific mouth-watering detail. Inside Jerusalem's throne room, Baldwin's advisors are doing the math out loud, and the math is screaming. 500 knights if they call in every favor. 3,000 infantry if they strip the walls bare. Against 26,000, that's 52 enemy soldiers for every one of yours. Those aren't fighting odds. Those are suicide ratios. Raymond of Tripoli, one of the kingdom's most experienced commanders, a man who's seen more battles than most knights see birthdays, speaks the truth that everyone's thinking. Sire, we should negotiate terms while we still have something to bargain with. If we ride out, we die. If we die, the kingdom dies with us. The silence that follows is broken only by the sound of Baldwin's as labored breathing behind his silver mask. That wet, dragging wheeze of air pulled through lungs that are probably also starting to rot from the inside. His advisors can see him trembling with the effort of staying upright in his throne, joints swelling and cracking with every tiny movement, skin splitting beneath the bandages. He's weighing impossible mathematics. Stay behind the walls, and Jerusalem might hold for weeks, while Saladin burns every village, every farm, every church within 50 miles. The civilian population will suffer slowly, watching their children starve, while the Muslims systematically destroy everything outside the walls. Ride out with 500 knights, and they die quickly. But Saladin's army, busy slaughtering knights in open battle, might not have time to devastate the countryside. The peasants might survive long enough for help to arrive from Europe, which everyone knows isn't coming, but nobody wants to say out loud. It's not a choice between victory and defeat. It's a choice between which kind of death you prefer, fast and violent, or slow and surrounded by the screams of everyone you failed to protect. Baldwin lifts his head, and the silver mask catches the torchlight in a way that makes it look like the skull underneath is grinning. Raymond, how fast can Saladin's army move when it's spread out foraging? The question confuses everyone, because why would that matter when you're about to die? Raymond frowns. Slower than usual, sire. They'd need time to reform ranks, and if we hit them while they're scattered? The room goes cold. Someone actually gasps. My lord, with respect. Raymond gestures at Baldwin's bandaged hands, his wasted frame that looks like a strong wind might shatter it. You can barely mount a horse without assistance. Your hands cannot hold reins. Baldwin's response, delivered in that whisper-thin voice that disease has reduced his throat to producing. That is all I need them to do. What happens next is so insane that multiple sources, Christian and Muslim alike, confirm every detail because they know nobody would believe a single account. November 24th, Baldwin is carried on a litter because his legs can't handle stairs anymore. Knights help strap on his armor, and his hands are so damaged that fingers won't close properly around anything. They have to tie the sword to his wrist with leather straps, basically turning his entire ruined hand into a weapon mount. He orders the entire available force to prepare for immediate march. 500 knights, 80 Templars in their white surcoats with blood-red crosses, 3,000 infantry, all heading north toward Saladin's army. Odo of Sancta, the Templar Grandmaster, a scarred veteran who spent his entire adult life killing Muslims for God, actually weeps when he sees Baldwin lifted onto his warhorse. The king's body has to be strapped to the saddle because his legs no longer have the strength to grip. They march at night, 45 miles in 36 hours. That pace would exhaust healthy cavalry in good weather. For men carrying a dying king and knowing they're marching towards certain death, it borders on physically impossible. But they do it anyway because their king, their leper king, whose body is literally falling apart, refuses to slow down. As they march, Baldwin keeps asking his scouts the same question over and over. Is Saladin still moving north? Is his army still spread out? Yes, sire. Yes, sire. And each time, Baldwin smiles behind his mask. His knights assume it's delirium, fever dreams, the mind breaking under the pressure of approaching annihilation. They're wrong. Baldwin has recognized something in Saladin's movements that nobody else has noticed. He's counting on Saladin being smart, on Saladin making the logical decision, the correct decision, the decision that will doom him. November 25th, dawn breaks over terrain that will be soaked in blood by sunset. Saladin receives his first warning just after sunrise when a scout rides in, horse foaming with exhaustion. My lord, Crusader banners, North Ridge. Saladin doesn't even look up from his breakfast. A patrol. They'll withdraw when they see our numbers. The scout's voice wavers. My lord, there are hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Double quotes. Now Saladin looks up, and for the first time in his entire military career, the undefeated Sultan of Egypt and Syria realizes he's made a mistake. His army, confident and undisciplined after days of easy marching, is spread across 3 miles of countryside, looting farms and resting horses. They're caught completely unprepared. And worse, standing on that ridge, silhouetted against the rising sun, is a figure in armor topped with a silver mask that catches the light like a second dawn. One of Saladin's commanders whispers, "Is that the Leper King?" Saladin stares, then quietly, almost reverently, "God help us. He came. 2 in the afternoon. The air smells like horse sweat, and something else, something sharp and metallic that has either fear or blood, or both mixed together in molecules you can taste on your tongue. Baldwin's 500 knights have formed a wedge, Templars at the tip, men who've taken sacred vows to never retreat, never surrender, never ask for mercy, even when they're being tortured to death. And at the front of this impossibly outnumbered formation, strapped to his horse like a corpse being transported for burial, is Baldwin IV. His advisors are screaming at him one last time, "Sire, we can still fall back. Regroup." Baldwin raises his bandaged right hand. The gesture shouldn't be possible because his fingers barely function, but somehow, impossibly, he raises that ruined hand high enough for 500 men to see it, and he drops it forward, the signal to charge. You're one of those knights in that moment. You're about to charge 26,000 warriors. The mathematics of your death are already calculated down to the decimal point. You'll be remembered as brave maybe, but mostly just dead. Leading you is a 16-year-old boy, whose body is rotting off his bones, who needs to be tied to his horse to stay upright, who should be in a monastery somewhere waiting to die quietly. But then you see something that changes everything. As the charge begins, as 500 horses surge forward and the ground starts shaking, Baldwin leans forward in his saddle, and you can't see his face behind that silver mask, but you absolutely know that he's smiling. And you think, if he's not afraid to die, why am I? At 400 yards, Saladin's scattered forces start scrambling to form defensive lines. Too slow. At 300 yards, Muslim archers fire, arrows falling like black rain, knights dropping, horses screaming and tumbling. The charge doesn't slow. At 200 yards, Saladin himself is shouting orders, trying to rally his center, his elite Mamluks forming ranks as fast as they can. But they're terrified not of the numbers, but of the madness charging toward them. At 100 yards, Baldwin does something no chronicler can explain. He draws his sword, the blade tied to his wrist, and he shouldn't be able to lift it, but he raises that sword above his head, and 500 knights behind him see their dying king holding steel to the sky, and they scream, not a battle cry, but something primal, something that sounds like fury and grief and faith, all burning together into a single sound that makes the air vibrate. At 50 yards, Muslim horses start backing up because animals know they smell death coming. At 10 yards, Muslim soldiers in the front ranks throw down their weapons and run. 2:15 in the afternoon, the Templar wedge hits Saladin's center like God's fist punching through parchment. And the sound isn't what you'd expect. Not clean metallic ringing, but wet, crunching, full of screaming horses' men. The air itself seems to be screaming. In the first 30 seconds, 300 Mamluks cease to exist, trampled under charging war horses, speared through by lances moving at full gallop, crushed under the weight of men in full armor moving at 20 miles per hour. But here's where it becomes truly unbelievable. The charge doesn't stop. The Templars keep going, driving through the Muslim center like a blade through flesh that won't close. And behind them, Baldwin's knights pour into the gap, widening it, turning it into a wound that hemorrhages men and morale and any hope of organized resistance. By 4 in the afternoon, it's over. 20,000 Muslim warriors lie dead or dying across 3 miles of blood-soaked earth. Saladin, abandoned by his personal guard, who broke their sacred oaths and ran anyway, flees on a racing camel. When they finally pull Baldwin from his horse, he's unconscious, the straps holding him in the saddle the only reason he didn't fall during 3 hours of continuous combat. His bandages are soaked through with blood, wounds torn open by the sheer physical stress of wielding a sword his hands shouldn't have been able to hold. The knights think he's dead until Odo of Sancta checks for breath and finds it barely and says through tears, he can't feel pain. That's how he did it. He couldn't feel his body breaking, so he never stopped. He never knew when to stop.